Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of Hotline League. I am in a hotel room. There is a beautiful man behind me in the hotel room as well. Mark Z is, we don't know where he is, but he's somewhere because MSI is happening. And Mark doesn't feel at home anymore in his own house because Team Liquid lost. That's right, they lost. They're not moving on to the or to the playoffs after the group stage. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about Fnatic going forward. Should have some EU colors because we're actually at an EU time, but none of them are watching. Whatever. Here we go. Hotline League episode 27 starts right now.
Hotline League is brought to you by Omen by HP.
And here we are on Hotline League. I know it's a little bit of a different vibe. Audio might be a little different. We're missing some of the colors. Because I'm on a remote. What are you doing, Broden? Broden's doing weird shit. It's a different show because I'm in Europe.
It is a strict downgrade, and in no way is the lack of viewership a correlation to that.
we actually. So this is a true story. I tried to get an EU personality on the show. The EU personalities I asked declined because they said, "Oh, this is we got a show tomorrow. I just want to relax. This is my one day off." So they didn't come on. So EU people who are watching the show, your personalities failed you. I'm sorry. We would have loved to have one of them on. They could have sat on the bed next to Broden. It would have been amazing, but it didn't work out. So that's a little too bad.
Not like I used to do LCS and then come home and do another show every day. I can't imagine what that'd be like.
Yeah. Well. Listen, people need to get their stuff together. So we, by the way, are filming this on, is today Thursday? It's Thursday here and Thursday there. So it's Thursday, the 17th. And we got MSI playoffs starting tomorrow. Let's check in with Mark. Mark, how are things going for you? Because I've been gallivanting around Europe. What are you doing?
Yeah, me too. I'm in Europe right now. You can tell by how the room is lit and the things on the walls behind me. Clearly not my apartment, so it must be Europe. I've also been staying up and watching the games every night. That's pretty much what I've been doing. I made a video. You probably didn't watch it.
It was the one about Ole and the anxiety and stuff. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, that was the title. So I didn't.
Yeah. I've been a little busy, Mark, because while you made that one video, I've made a million videos, including a cinematic masterpiece with Broden. Whatever, continue your story.
That was bad.
You didn't like it?
You're not an actor.
What? Broden thought it was good.
Broden, you pay Broden. Are you going to tell your boss you suck?
He tells me that frequently. So what else? You did the show.
There's really not much else. I started playing Guild Wars 1 because I'm up late at night.
There's a lot of other games that have come out since Guild Wars 1.
Yeah, a lot of them are worse still, a little bit.
Yeah.
Other than that, I ate a bunch of pizza last night.
That's great.
Not sitting so great with me.
Yeah. Well, before we get into calls, because I'm sure there will be some calls about this, but I don't know. You want to give your thoughts on the group stage and potentially specifically Team Liquid?
Yeah. So we did a GLT a couple days ago where I went, pretty in depth on it. It was amazing that North America could horribly disappoint us twice in a single group stage, but they managed to do it.
That's actually pretty good.
They looked fucking terrible for the first, 2 days. We think that we have no chance. Then they proceed to have destiny in their own hands where they just need to win one of two games, and they lose both those games.
Yeah, and in a pretty embarrassing way, I'd say. I don't know how you felt, but I don't know. I felt like those two games neither of them were pretty good. Fnatic just felt like they had Team Liquid by the cojones.
Yeah, I think losing to RNGS kind of like whatever, that's fine. But then losing to Europe in that fashion where it wasn't even close was like, God damn it.
And like a pretty seemingly tilted Europe. I mean, they played well that game, but I don't know. They did not look good earlier in the day.
Europe was like 0 0-3 in their last 3 games or something. So
one of them to a like already disqualified Evos.
yeah.
So
it was not enjoyable.
Yeah. Are you angry? Are you whatever? Like, so I had that interview with Broxia that went up yesterday, and he was saying that NA fans should be happy that their team was able to like almost pull it through after such a rough start.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm not disappointed in the outcome. Like, I think North America showed that like we're pretty close to the other regions. We just barely didn't make it in a tiebreaker. And if you told me going into the event that North America doesn't get out of groups in a tiebreaker, I would be like, all right, like that's not that bad. But it's the fashion that it happened in, because like if they didn't have such bad nerves and confidence issues in the first 2 days, they probably can win one more game. And like I don't want to make excuses, because like every team plays bad, every team has mistakes. RNG like was jet lagged the first couple of days and all that stuff, but only one team has ever had a player bench themselves. So it's like hard not to be frustrated about that.
It's still a little. At first, I thought he didn't bench himself. Then I thought he did because Kane said it, and then in the interview that Dodo did with me, he was like, "Yeah, so we approached him about it, and he decided to step down." And I'm kind of like, "So did he bench him, or did you guys ask him if he wanted to bench himself? Because those are kind of two different situations."
I read it as like, Ole, you're not feeling well. Like we hear you freaking out on stage, and then like he was freaking out during the scrims, according to Dodo too. Like I watched that interview, one of the only ones I did because it was actually useful. And then it sounded like they were probably like, Ole, are you okay? And then he was like, no, bench me or something. So that's how it came across to me. And I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty disappointed. People can see the video where I'm acting, I guess, but it was funny. So the behind the scenes of that video, and the reason why I explain this is for context. Like Broden and I, it had been raining outside where we normally do the interviews, and I think I was like, how funny would it be if like at the end of the video I'm just like covered in rain, like that's just a shot of me out there. And so we came up with the idea of like win or lose, and at the time we thought they were going to win because again they just needed to win one of like these 2 games, and one of which was against like Fnatic. And so we came up with the idea of, okay, after the game ends, I will walk outside and I will look up, and if they win, I just look at the camera with the rain pouring down on me, and I just say like, I just smile and say it's raining or whatever. And then if they lose, go out there and I'm just like, it's raining and I look sad. So we had it one way or the other. The funny thing was well, it's not that funny. Whenever they actually lost in such an embarrassing way, I didn't want to do
No, it's funny.
I didn't want to do, people on the podcast don't know that you're just making obscene gestures. I didn't want to do the video. I was like, Broden had to kind of talk me back into it because we had everything else. But I was like so frustrated. So like I actually walked out because I knew that I needed to, and we hit a cut at the drapes. And I walk outside and it's not even raining. We had planned on it to rain and it just stopped raining. And I'm just like so frustrated and angry and sad because I was just literally just like, just watch that. And I'm like, it just stopped raining. So it just even ruined the whole fucking video too. But I was actually really disappointed and upset. And then, and so then Broden talked me back into it and we did another cut from those drapes and I walked outside upset. But,
You're inspired by Full Metal Alchemist?
we were not. I had actually never seen that scene, and then everybody was like, "Oh, this is like that scene from that one anime," and I was like, "I'd seen the meme, but like once before, and I'd forgotten about it, so it was frustrating."
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting some echo.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know what happened. But yeah, I mean, hey, Reddit loved it.
Yeah.
That interview popped off, so
yeah. Oh,
good on you.
Hello. My camera just lost itself. Oh, we're back. I don't know what's happening. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I didn't touch anything. It just did that. All right. Well, why don't we get into some calls. Do you want to explain how this works? Because we probably have a lot of viewers that have never seen this before.
Yeah, for all you kiddies out there, we have a Discord that Travis and I are on right now. I'm spamming it in the chat
Well,
right
it's just
now.
discord.gg/Travis. Remember, I got that made.
No, I didn't remember that. There's also the other link, so you can use Travis or mine. When you join, there's going to be two things you need to do. First up, you're going to need to join one of the voice channels, Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2. Once you are in those voice channels, you are going to go type in the text channel Pleb Topics and put in whatever your takes are for this episode. And since it's obviously MSI focused, who impressed you? Who are you disappointed in? Did you like the venue? Was it hype or not? Were you really bored with it? Did you like the meta? Whatever you guys possibly want to talk about, go in that plebs topic, write down your take. So not like, I want to talk about the meta. Be like, I thought this meta was boring because mid laners just pushed or something. Like, give me your actual take, not just I want to talk about. If you say I want to talk about, I'm banning you from the Discord. Otherwise, yeah, go to the Discord.
And people ask about this. We do have, if you are a Twitch sub, you get access. It takes a little bit to sync sometimes, but it allows you to get access on the Discord to a sub chat. In the sub chat, oh, by the way, I need to move the Hotline League section up. In the sub chat where you put in your conversation, you can just put your topic there because it's more likely that you'll get picked. Because there's less people spamming. So it gives you a little bit of an advantage, but we pull people, of course, that are not subs and subs, so that's how that works. That is how this works. Hope you guys have some good calls. Hopefully no one is too crazy. But I guess while Mark is looking for callers, do you have anyone yet?
No.
Not yet.
There weren't that many people in because European time zone is letting us down.
Okay, well, listen. Actually, I mean, we're getting viewers. They're starting to come in.
I also just coughed up a lung, so I'm dead. I don't know why my cough's worse this week. I was sick last week, like actually sick.
It's because North America lost.
It's my body's way of expressing its disappointment is to cough a lot.
Exactly. Couple of people to shout out while we're getting this set up. By the way, it was very funny. I did the Reckless, and I posted the Reckless Doublelift interview earlier, and I got 3 donations from that through the support link within the first 30 minutes or so. All 3 of them from women. And I got to tell you guys, it's mostly dudes that watch my content. Thank you to Dragon Striker 911. Tanglu, who resubbed, Bilu, Forte, BH Chicken, Real Foxy gifted a sub to Broden, Mar2586, Matter XD, the 8-Bit Creeper, OPTSM fan resubbed and says, I love Hotline League, I love Travis, I love Mark Z, I love Kelby, I tolerate Kelby's love of chain smokers, and I love Omen by HP. I'll keep supporting you forever. Moonboy sub. We should be getting any second in our first caller. Luke Hem sent $5. Thank you for the Double F Reckless interview and all the others. 100% of the content.
Everyone in the waiting room is muted on Discord. When you get pulled in, you gotta unmute so I can test your microphone and shit. Come on, Europe.
Is it not a? Are they muting themselves? I hope that. Okay, yeah. They're clearing it up already. Okay, good.
You guys are making this tough, Europe.
Crossbow burrito. Resub for 5 months. Holy shit, I've been wasting my money for 5 months already. Wow. Thank you for the 5 months. Fragbait Light resubbed 5 months. Be Smart 4 months. Panda Epic subbed.
There, we got somebody.
Mr. Timpani has joined the show. Where are you calling from, Mr. Timpani?
I'm calling from Connecticut.
Connecticut. Okay, so do you like this time zone, or do you like we're doing the show much earlier than normal?
I'm in college right now, so we're on summer break, so I had the whole day basically to do whatever I want. So
it would have been totally fine to stay up until the typical, midnight showing that it is. You have been okay with that?
Yeah. Usually I have some pretty late classes during the semester, so yeah. I usually stay up for most of the shows.
Well, thank you for calling in, Mr. Timpani. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I was kind of just I don't know. I was kind of depressing with a lot of the threads that you see on Reddit, like shitting on TL and like shitting on their players and stuff. So I kind of just wanted to have a more positive outlook and say like, I mean, they were 0-4 at one point, but after that, they ended up like winning some games. And I was like, wow, like it's kind of strange that a team would be able to, in general, just perform so well and have I think it was a 4-1 record after that, or was it 5-1?
Yeah, they had a pretty good streak.
They were
after
4-2 after.
Yeah, so that's so I was kind of like, okay, I respect that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean that was okay, and I think that's, like I said, it was nice that they were able to show that North America could compete, but it is very hard not to be disappointed about that.
Yeah, I just kind of like, I mean, I was disappointed like every other NA fan, but I was kind of just like, I want to have some positive spin on this because I don't want to have year after year have only like the first seed from NA just not perform. It's whatever, I guess.
Yeah, I think for me, so Azale said an interesting thing in the interview with him that I did with him, where he was saying, I asked him, I think this was after TL had gone 0-4, or maybe it was after they'd won their first game. I asked him, how much should people be angry about this? Like how much, not hate, but like criticism and whatever, the Reddit stuff. And he said that he felt that it was deserved towards Team Liquid. Like the concept and brand and the team of Team Liquid, they should be held to a pretty high standard because they're spending a lot on these players. The resources they put in, they've got this dedicated training facility. Why is it that they can never pull this off? But then maybe not like send that criticism and that hate to the individual players themselves because they are kind of people. I think that's probably a fair assessment. Like even if you are disappointed with the way that some of the players played, like taking out your anger on them is not going to help. But being disappointed in Team Liquid, the organization, for being unable to like doing whatever they needed to make this thing work, maybe that's fair.
I think depending on how you're taking your anger out on the players, quote unquote, because like if you're going on Reddit and being like, man, that really sucks about Ole, he probably shouldn't be their support if this is a thing like that's going to happen, and he's had confidence. Like if someone wanted to make that argument on Reddit, that to me is not like attacking a player. You're doing it on a public discussion forum for like people to talk about esports things. He's not like going on that guy's Twitter and being like, go fuck yourself. Like if you go on someone's Twitter and flame them, I have a problem with that. But if you go on Reddit and say things like, I don't think this player should be on the team, or he lost in this tournament, or whatever your thought is, like I actually don't have a big problem with that. As long as like you're not just saying fuck this player and you're actually like having a discussion around it.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, like the discussion thing I think is pretty good. Like, oh shit, like a discussion thread that's like, should Team Liquid make a roster change? And maybe somebody will bring that up. I don't know, but I think that's a good healthy thing. But sort of just the needless, like, I don't think it's good to just be like, Ole sucks.
Well,
like,
the first 2 days, people were so insufferable on Reddit. They're like, North America sucks. It's a joke of a region. I want to kill myself as a North America fan. I want to fucking bomb North America. And it's like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
It's like, one, the problems that Team Liquid had in the first 2 days were not at all reflective of the entire region. Or maybe they are, but we'll get into that with another caller, I think. Yeah. But it's not like North America, like we completely suck because these 5 guys choked on stage for the first 2 days before getting it together. It's like, that's not really specific.
Yeah, like I personally really enjoyed some of the memes that came out of it too, even though they were kind of negative. Like the I think it was from the last Worlds, but it was like the NA is so fucking free.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty great.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Reddit. You go on there for some shit posts, some memes, and occasionally a discussion or two, but you can't take it too seriously, hopefully, which is sad as the primary discussion place.
So, Mr. Timpani, like, what? So, are you, as Brock just said, are you proud of North America for doing what they did?
I wouldn't say I'm proud because, like, we just barely in the 11th hour didn't make it, but I think I'm proud of the second half, not so much of the first half, Yeah,
I gotcha. All right, well, I don't know. Do you have anything else that you'd like to chat about before we move on to the next caller?
Not really. I kind of just wanted to, I don't know, put like a more positive outlook on it, but I don't know. I guess people don't like that on Reddit at least, but hopefully
No,
that'll change.
Reddit, Navi 1990, I think it's 1995, said a second ago that Reddit has been like particularly shitty lately, and I kind of agree with that. Like, not everybody, but there's been like a weird culture of like frustration and anger. Even before MSI, people were upset with. Oh, sorry, my camera froze. Hopefully that gets fixed. Even before MSI, there was this weird frustration. I don't know. It's just odd.
Yeah, I definitely saw a lot of it during that event. Like I know what you were talking about before, and I was like, it's kind of like that, but it feels like everyone's just bored because there's no international competition. And then like it was still bad, and it's still people have just refocused from MSI right now onto like the jungle changes, which I understand are dumb. I get it, but it's like 8 threads, just like fuck the jungle, fuck Riot, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I agree.
Are you unfrozen? Did I feel enough?
I'm trying to fix it right now, but we'll see. No, okay.
I mean,
Well, we can just move on.
It's an improvement in some ways.
Mr. Tabati, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, great.
All right, hang on. Let me see if we can fix this. There we go. We're back in action. Mark is getting the next person.
The next person, it's Blue Jay.
Oh, hello, Blue Jay. You're back.
I am back.
Welcome back to the show. Were you on the last show, or was it a couple shows ago? I forget.
It was a couple ago, maybe 2 or 3 or something like that.
Okay, and you're from Canada?
Yes, Kitchener, Ontario.
Kitchener, Ontario. I remember. It's easy to remember because your name is Blue Jay, and you are a Twitch sub. So thank you so much for your sub.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
What do you want to talk about on the MSI edition of Hotline League?
So even though I'm an NA fan, I was really hyped for TL and stuff like that going into MSI. What I was really focused on was how much SOAS was going to play after his little outburst kind of thing on Twitter. And I just think after seeing MSI and after him seeing, I don't know how many games he played. I know he didn't play the majority of them. I think he maybe played 1 or 2. Maybe you guys can help me out with that. But my point is that I don't think he's happy, and I don't think he's coming back to Fnatic.
Yeah,
I think he played 1 game.
Is that what it was? It was 1? Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, he played 1.
And they won, but he kind of it was one of those like split map games where the enemy team just dicks him and his team just dicks bot lane. So he looked rough, but that was kind of more of a circumstance.
He was way behind in farm too, right? If I remember right.
Yeah, well, it was like I said, it was the kind of thing where the enemy team kept going top, which would mean that the enemy's bot lane was open, so they would just like mirror each other's plays, and so SOAS was getting crushed, and then the enemy AD was getting crushed, and Reckless was really ahead.
Right, and I think that just adds to it as well, because if you want a chance to prove yourself, 1 game at MSI is not a fair opportunity. Now, granted, every team has obviously the right to put in whoever the hell they want, right? It's the organization's decision. They go with who they think is going to win. I just think it does kind of feel bad to see a guy who's put so much into an organization really get shafted.
Yeah, so I know I've said this several times, but I have an interview with him that was I thought I'd post it today, but I think I'm going to post it. Well, it'll be.
Play it now, live reveal stream.
Anyway, so in the interview, he says he's going to Korea after this with, I think, Caps. So that's a pretty good sign for him staying on the organization, but he definitely is not happy. The tone of the interview is not a very happy one. So.
No, and this tweet too. His tweet was like, even though he had deleted right after, he said something like, "I can't hang on."
Yeah, I mean, he's a very emotional dude. He's always been one of the more emotional pros and one of the more outspoken ones. I mean, from ranting about people to whatever. But so it's not surprising to me that he would have like a bit of an outburst at a very emotional, frustrating time for him. But yeah, I don't know. It is interesting, right? Like, does he stay on that team if he's miserable and they're only going to play Blippo? I don't know.
And
I do know that Blippo came up to me.
Put up with that.
I don't know if I will say Whippo came up to me at the venue and said to me that he's a huge fan of my work, and was very nice. So I gotta give I do like Whippo. I like Soaz, but pros that do that are they're on another level in my book. I like them.
Has Soaz ever complimented your work?
It's been like 7 years. I don't. Maybe he did.
Oh, then
Yeah,
it's
in
clear
7 years
cut
he
then.
never complimented you. Whippo, first international competition.
Whippo MVP.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the first time I
actually
interacted,
have-
he came up and introduced himself. And he's like, "Hey, man, I just want to say, I'm a big fan of your work. I really like it." I was just like, "Whoa, this is
That's
amazing."
pretty sick, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually have Soaz's tweet here. Says this month is truly the worst I have ever experienced in my life. Can't trust anyone and everyone for themselves in this shit industry. I guess I will have a lot to say after this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done. He's fed up. But what I wanted to ask
Well,
you
that was
guys,
just one
actually-
moment, and then he later recanted it.
Yeah. But I think his true colors had already been put out there.
I mean,
you
there
know what I'm
there are
saying?
many times the things that I have said to Mark in anger that later, you
And-
would have thought I'd be done with Hotline League, but
I think
we
there's
figure it out.
definitely some validity to that. Like you can definitely say like, oh, I messed up and it's not something I meant. But I mean, everybody's gonna have that question in the back of their head of if he did really mean it. And honestly, I think he did.
Yeah.
I think it depends for me on what happens in summer because Soaz has like his injury or whatever, and then probably wasn't playing League at all during that time. I assume if he couldn't play competitively, he couldn't play. And the team, probably made a decision along the way that's like, we're going to use Whippo because like not only is Soaz like not playing with us, he's not playing at all, and then he's got to like get back into the groove of things. And then apparently he was okay to play for one game, and they put him in versus Evos the first time. Is who he went up against. Is the worst team there, and that was like they're like, there's like, here you go, Soaz, here's your game to. This is me reading into it, but I assume they're saying this is like the game for you to try and see if you're going to perform better than Whippo. He didn't really play that much better than Whippo, so they just stuck with the guy that they had more practice with on the patch and like more recent practice. And so I think coming into summer, if Soaz is not back as the actual like de facto starter, then you'll see that other side of him about wanting to leave. Probably, I think it'll be a lot up to what happens in summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think
he'll
it's fair. I think it's totally fair for Fnatic to say, look, this is who we practice with. This is who we're going with. Like that's tough shit.
He played
for
with
Soaz.
one hand. He was playing. Damn.
So what Twitch chat said? Oh well, I think they were
Yeah.
saying he was streaming.
So wait, I have a question for Twitch chat, and they can get back to me. Was he like playing well, or like how well was he playing with one hand? Because playing with one hand and streaming for fun is pretty different than like playing competitively and being in practice. So I guess how well was he playing with one hand?
So one of the other things that Twitch chat's been bringing up was that he said that he's not going to leave the organization. So I think that might be true in that moment. The question is if Fnatic says you're on the bench infinitely, so as we've decided to just keep going with Whippo because we had what if they win MSI with Whippo? He leads them to an astounding victory. History's made. Fnatic wins MSI. Like Soaz probably not going to be back on that roster in the summer. So I mean, they could just keep him benched because I'm sure they have a contract with him that lets them do that. But wouldn't be surprised.
You guys both said it. I think it's really big. Like it depends a lot on summer, and I think that's true too because Whippo hasn't played a lot whatsoever. He's still like I think everyone's still learning a lot about what he can bring to the table too. And what if he turns out to just be I don't want to sound toxic, but like a Mike Young, where like Mike Young was absolutely popping off, and then now everybody's kind of questioning Mike Young's skill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there's still lots to learn about him.
Yeah, you hate Mike Young. That's what I'm hearing, Blue Jay.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, I freaking love Mike Young. I love him, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting question. We'll have to see how things develop. But thank you, Blue Jay, for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for being a sub.
Yeah. Take care.
See you.
All right, we are moving along here. Mark, actually, okay. Mark, Oh,
What?
okay. I need to break after this next one. Mr. Noodle's
Okay.
on the show. Mr. Noodle, where are you calling from?
Hello. I'm calling from Toronto, Ontario.
Toronto, Ontario. Okay. I love all the EU callers we're getting. But-
Don't worry, there's at least one European in there.
oh, really?
So,
Do you guys
I
talk?
heard the accent.
Do you guys talk to each other in the waiting room?
yeah.
I would say it's not typical. Most of the time, guys just kind of sitting there with their mics muted. But
Yeah. It's going to be a European guy that lives in Texas. He's like, I'm originally from London, but I now live in Austin. Mr. Noodle, calling from Toronto. We've now had 2 Canadians on. What
Okay.
do you want to talk about on the show today?
So I think that holding the play-ins in the group stage in the EU LCS studio was a bit of a missed opportunity and kind of took away from the tournament as a whole. I mean, I get that you'd want a smaller venue for something like a group stage, and especially the play-ins, because I don't think a lot of people want to watch the play-ins. But I think they could have done something like they did with the Spring Split Finals in NA. They rented out a small theater or some other kind of smaller venue to give the tournament more of like an international feeling or a feeling of importance rather than just being in the same thing that anybody who watches EU LCS sees every single week. I don't know, like I was talking to somebody in the lobby. We were saying, like, imagine like the group, especially the group stage, but just the whole play-ins and groups in general, and all the cool storylines we had, like Flash Wolves rising up, the dominance of Supermassive, and things like that. But put it where we held the group stages in Brazil last year with that crowd, and it could have been a lot more exciting.
Yes.
Travis, your favorite topic?
Yes.
How was it
I always
being
feel
there?
bad bringing it up one more time, but now that it's all over, yes, I've talked about this for a while, Mr. Noodle. I don't know if you've seen any of my conversation about it on past Hotline Leagues, and I did a video that was just about literally like how it sucks that the venues are getting smaller, the events are getting smaller. Yes, I cannot say enough. I think I'm trying to think about it. So China, Korea, NA. I think every team except for Europe and EVOS. There's maybe one. Who am I forgetting? Somebody. Anyway, they all played in a smaller venue than they normally play their normal league matches, right? Like the LPL venue definitely is bigger. LCK venue definitely bigger. I'm almost certain. NA venue is probably twice as many seats. Like, it is crazy to me that you qualify. Imagine a world where Fnatic did not win that tiebreaker. They qualified for an MSI that happened in their region, and the only place they got to play was the same fucking studio that they play all the rest of their games in. Like, that would have been insane. That would have been insane. So I just don't get it.
You got so many fans. Like we have like, for example, with All-Stars, all the Chinese fans, the LPL fans coming in, they like storm the NALCS studio. And you're in Europe, you have a dominant European team and a team that's just come into resurgence. And you can't fit that many people, that many fans who would like to see their team play into the studio. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
There's a smaller event at a smaller studio, which is fine. If you look at something like where they would hold IM Katowice or like the theater in Miami, the Fillmore. There's that, and then there's the studio. It I don't know. It feels lazy.
Yeah.
Or like it just.
So some people are saying that because of the times that they were scheduling it, they couldn't have filled a venue. I think there were people that wanted to go that couldn't go, and even as it stood, like there were people that were sitting on the ground to watch it that came in from the press room and from some of the other. And yes, I do think that scheduling it at a different time would have allowed more people, but. Look, you can find a venue. There were 170 seats. You could have found 1,000-person venue. Even 1,000-person venue would have felt better than what they had. Like, you can always go. I'm not saying they need an 8,000-person arena, but find just something that is not the EULCS studio that feels better. Even if it's like you could have found 200 people to do that. Especially part of the reason why it's always hard filling that studio, by the way, is because it's in the middle of nowhere out in Berlin. You have to basically drive 30 minutes out to get to it. Like just find something. It could be in Berlin. Find a you can't use a movie theater, but find something because it's just not good.
Well, so Travis, was it sold out every day?
Yes.
Like, was it 170 full? So
Yes.
you could say at least it looked like
I
you could have got somewhere bigger.
I went and sat in the audience, and as soon as Broden and I did. Do you remember that? Wait, did he leave? Broden?
Steal his headphones. Is he gone?
He literally fell asleep.
Oh, then also steal his headphones.
His head was okay. I went and sat in the audience with Broden on the first day, and I was told, you cannot sit in this audience. We need every seat we can. And there were people sitting at the front of the studio or at the front of the building trying to get in. And so then I had to go sit in the front row which is on the ground, and there was a metal bar that went into my back. It was not great. Yes, it was sold out. They could have had, and by the way, like, all right, this is a rough estimate, but maybe a fifth or a fourth of the audience were what I believe, I would speculate, to be LPL fans that flew to Berlin to support RNG in the group stage. Like, there's a good chance that you could have even sold more. There were probably more LPL fans that would have liked to have come. I actually talked to fans that were there and would have gone to all 5 days, but could only get tickets to a couple days and would have gone more. You could have definitely sold more.
Well, they could have also maybe done, and you see this with Counter-Strike tournaments especially, done different stages of the tournament in different cities. So you could have, and especially in Europe where flights are relatively cheap and it's relatively easier to get from one city to another than in North America, you could really embrace the whole different regions aspect that the ULCS likes to push and maybe have the play-in stage, I don't know, in Malmo, let's say.
Yeah.
And then you could do another one in like Marseille, and then you go to Paris or something like that.
I think that would have been hard for them to do because they have to move all the gear and everything around. But I do think
you would need a few more days for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they could have done play-ins in the EULCS studio, group stage in a bigger venue somewhere in Berlin or in the surrounding areas, and then or in Paris. And then playoffs in the bigger venue in Paris. Also, by the way, the Paris venue is not that big. This is the venue that they used in 2014 All-Stars. It's a great venue. I love it. I'm excited to return to it. And all the casters and broadcasters I've talked to are excited to return to it. But like, you probably could have just done it there, done group stage there. So I don't know. One of the interesting things about this is a lot of people don't know this. Hunter's in the chat saying, Hunter thinks there's a good amount of people here. I think this is, but
I would say 846 is acceptable.
Yeah, it's acceptable.
Holy shit, that echo is crazy sometimes.
Sorry. So, what a lot of people don't know this, but they've talked about it or they've referenced it publicly, so I don't feel bad saying it. But Riot kind of divides their esports team into like a couple different teams, right? There's like the NA team, the EU team, then there's something called Central that is in charge of running these international events and putting them together. What is very interesting about this tournament in particular, I feel like, is Central. If EU put this on, you would think EU is looking for permanent partnerships and franchises, right? You want to show like, look how awesome esports in Europe can be for League of Legends. So you should. It is they are incentivized right now. They should just be running this as like an ad campaign for like, give us 10 million euros and give us the best application ever for EULCS next year. So, in my opinion, they should have like really blown it out, put it at EU times, not at China times, whatever. But instead, this EU event was very heavily like even the fact that so granted, this is because normally the first seed plays first, but I still think it's actually really bad that like. The Fnatic match is on a Friday instead of a Saturday. So I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like MSI this year has been run pretty. Not. I'm not. I don't mean. Look, there are great people that are on the ground every day doing this stuff and coordinating it and working hard, but the planning around it and some of the high level decision making, I think, is very questionable.
The time this year is just a huge slap in the face, honestly, to anybody that's an NA or EU fan, right?
Yeah.
Because for Worlds and stuff, I have to stay up till 4 a.m. to start watching the group stage. And let's face it, if you're an NA fan, that's the only time you're going to get to see your favorite team play. And so, but now they have it starting in what's basically the morning for me, because it's better for the audience that isn't the live audience, even though it should probably be about the live experience.
Not when it's in that studio.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
What I will say as a viewer online was that it didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. But that's also just because I basically watch the games, then I'll tab out. And because I don't watch the EULCS that often, seeing them standing in front of that big screen and those desks, was still a new enough experience for me. I think it was probably, like, if you're someone who watched Europe more often, it probably would have bothered you even more. Because, as expected, they didn't, have that many, at least I didn't see that many sweeping shots of the audience beyond, the high five stuff. So,
yeah, that's fair.
So for me, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would feel. But that's, making the best of a bad situation. Where it's that didn't feel terrible. Not that was really hype.
Yeah, 19 Heart CM and Twitch chat says, "Are you afraid that League is slowly dying?" No. In fact, from what I understand, a lot of the viewership numbers look pretty good in both EU and North America for this split compared to last year, right? Which would not necessarily indicate that it is dying. The problem is that in a world where people are talking about is League dying, making it look like your international event is fallen from grace. I just don't. It's such a bad idea. Such a bad idea.
I disagree with that for people who say the online experience, they don't care at all about what the venue is if you're an online viewer, because the opening ceremonies and all that stuff can be pretty hype, even for group stage or playing stage of Worlds out in China in front of a pretty decent sized audience. And they all got a standing ovation and cheers and that's still cool. And the fact of the matter is the announcement for the players the first time that they all played, I did watch that because they did that before each team played, because their stage is too small to present all the players at the beginning. So they had to only present 2 teams before they actually played. And those moments I think matter.
Yeah.
Because it goes beyond your initial viewing experience. Because I think it's pretty hype to see everyone in front of an arena and everyone going ape shit before they all play their games. You lose that, and then you lose any sort of video material that would look cool. You don't get nearly as many awesome shots as any of the team media, as someone who's going to make maybe a documentary about this event, whatever it is, the whole thing kind of gets hit down a little bit.
And just to finally wrap it up, because I know people are tired of this topic, it just feels so bad that you qualify from this, these major events, in Copenhagen for EU, LCK finals had this awesome show. Even people were down at the Miami event, I thought was pretty cool. You qualify to go play in the EU LCS studio. It feels bad. Anyway, thank you so much.
Tony Zixlow, before we go, says the most memorable part of our 2016 MSI run was the group stage where the event was constantly roaring. Venues matter so much.
Thank you, Mr. Noodle, for calling in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Mark, I need to talk a little bit about something. You know what that is?
No. Yeah. Is it Omen by
It is
HP?
Omen by HP, our sponsor for this show. They've been sponsoring the show for quite some time now. We appreciate their continued support. It is amazing to have them on it. And by the way, the computer that I am running this on, I am streaming it. I am recording it locally. All this stuff off of a laptop, which is not always the easiest thing to do. I've got a stream coming in from a DSLR camera. All this stuff is being handled by this beast laptop, this Omen by HP that is in front of me, that Omen hooked me up with. So thank you so much to them. You guys have been tweeting. You've been tweeting at me, tweeting at Omen. You've been talking about all the great gear and the great experiences you've been having with them. Thank you so much. They've gotten into the space a couple years ago, and they support everything from Overwatch League all the way to a show like this, which is really fantastic of them. You guys might notice that they have been doing some content with CLG because they sponsor CLG. You can go check all that stuff out on their Twitter, which is owned by HP. They tweet out a lot of that stuff over there, and they actually have a Twitch handle, which is also owned by HP, where they run things like the Omen Dojo. I don't know. I would say it's been fantastic working with those guys. I think they've maybe got some other cool stuff coming down the pipeline for content that maybe I can't talk about, but excited about what they've got going on. Excited about their gear. They never told me that I had to like endorse the gear. They just said talk about the brand. But honestly, like I will say this, I've had great experiences with all the gear that they've sent my way. Mark normally shows a keyboard at this point in time, but unfortunately he's traveling, so he can't do that.
Well, I can't do it because Omen by HP has actually bought me a villa in Europe, which is where I'm at
Yeah,
right now for
yeah.
the event.
Yes.
They didn't want me to tell Travis because he would feel bad, but just great showing of support by these guys to
Yeah.
fly me out here and put me up in this amazing place.
Well, Mark is memeing, but I'm not memeing. They've been a great partner for the show. We thank them so much for their support. Really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much to Omen by HP. Moving on to our next caller, which we should have any second here.
Before we go, Tony chimed in a little bit more about it. It's just like, imagine all those like crazy shots of like, the images of like the players. Like, I don't remember if you remember, like CLG like had all those like dabs and stuff that they were doing in front of like a huge arena, and Tony looked like he was going to kill somebody in those pictures. Like, so much of the media that was around that event was like extra hype because of how like the venue and stuff like that.
Yep.
As I thought more about it, I was just like, God damn, that's true. Like, there's so much stuff that goes into like.
I mean, the
what a
opening
venue
ceremony.
brings.
The opening ceremony had like all the drawing on the ground and all that like awesome stuff. The opening ceremony for MSI was like, hey, we're here at the EULCS studio.
All right, I'll get the next person.
Yep. Oh yeah, somebody asked. Broden is hiding. That is an Owen by HP laptop that he is editing on. Right behind me, he's working on. You can see it in the background. He's behind there. You can basically see. Oh, see, look, there's his hands. But that's his computer that Omen hooked him up with. So thank you so much to Omen for their support. We're joined right now by Pandemonium 88, who I believe is on one of the early episodes of the show. Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly which one. I think it was 9 or 10 or something like that.
Okay. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from London.
From London. Okay, so I'm in Paris right now, and I think London is pretty close. What is that noise? Is that you?
I was just tapping my legs.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you're calling from London. Good to have you on the show. By the way, is this a much better time for you, I assume?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Comparatively to usual.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping you'd have a lot of enthusiasm, but you're like, yeah, it's a little bit better. Listen.
No, it's fantastic, Travis. It's really great.
It's too
I
late.
don't know. He didn't sell me on it. Sounds like we should go back to the old time, Travis.
Yeah. British people are not great at faking enthusiasm. What do you want to talk about on the show, Pandemonium?
So it's kind of going back to that show 9 or 10 topic, which is where I said that Liquid don't have enough carry threats internationally. And my original premise was in comparison to Echo Thoughts, CLG, 100 Thieves, and TSM. Now, I straight up will say I might have been wrong on a couple of those, but I still think that my view that this realistically international carry level of Team Liquid is basically only double lift. And I think whilst their overall team synergy and strength working together is enough to win NA, I don't think that their players are strong enough individually to ever really succeed. Whereas I feel like the ceilings of those other teams are higher, and it's kind of just going back to that. And if we feel like that original premise is more mute now that they've won NA, or actually better now that we've seen them fail at MSI.
I think.
So just to be really clear, is this one of those like Echo Fox would have done better if they'd qualified for this type of arguments.
Not necessarily, because I feel like Liquid were clearly the best in NA. I'm thinking more like broadly, and perhaps looking forward to Worlds, that the individual carry threat is greater to reach a higher peak, a possible higher ceiling as an NA representative in those other teams.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I like that take a lot more because I don't like when people are like, man, like TSM, like the guy that ticked Parth off really badly when he was like, man, TSM sucks. Other teams would have done so much better at all these international events. I'm not convinced anyone would have done better than TL. Like someone asked me who do I think would have made it out of group stage, and I was like, TSM if they were playing well, but TSM hadn't been playing that well all split aside for like those last couple of weeks at the end, and then clearly that didn't translate to playoffs. So who knows? But I think this is a really weird tournament to either help or hurt your argument because wherever you land on either side of this argument that TL doesn't have enough carry threats or they're fine, you will have evidence that you can point to from this tournament to support your argument. So if you don't think that they have enough, like, well, they didn't make it and Doublelift was the only one who was carrying and Pobelter had to get put on Malzahar duty because he couldn't play anything else at that event. And Impact was his best on tanks, yada, yada, yada. So that's one argument you can make. And on the other side, it's like, yeah, but they were in a tiebreaker and almost got out. Like they clearly could have been playing better. And if they didn't have those confidence issues at the beginning and they just played at a regular level the whole time, then they would have made it out. And then they clearly don't need more carry threat. So it's a really weird tournament because they both look terrible and looked good enough in the same event. And you can really kind of go on either side of it.
Okay, but then my question to I do agree with that. But my question to you, Mark, is when I was last on the show, you said that you felt a big strength of Liquid that would help to perhaps like cover up this potential flaw is the synergy of and like teamwork of Ole and Xmithy working together, setting up vision and stuff. And I feel like that particular.
Wait, Mark said that?
Certain.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
He said it was a potential strength looking back to Immortals, and you've got to remember this was when I first phoned in. It was after only 1 week, so we could only really refer back to him at that point.
I just want to be clear. I did not say that. That was Mark.
Well, I mean, I would say that the Ole part clearly didn't work out, but the teamwork from Team Liquid was still kind of there. Like they did play around Doublelift pretty well, and in the games that they were winning. While Doublelift was clearly the prime, wasn't like the only thing that they could do was go bot lane. Like they did do some other stuff. So yeah, like their team works all right. And Smithy was really, really good this tournament. Him and Doublelift both were amazing. So like, you know, I'm not ready to say that like this Team Liquid won't, if like depending on group draw, knock it out of groups. Like I think they can, but I personally am a little bit more on Pandemonium's side where like Pobelter needs to show more because that was not a good tournament at all.
Yeah, Pobelter's weird in that there are moments where I really feel like he has the potential to be like one of the greatest NA mids, you know, like even if he's not like the flashy guy, he can just show a lot of consistency and be where he needs to be in the map and all that stuff. And then there are just some times where I'm like, all right, bring over another European.
What's Caps up to after this tournament?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Caps, thank you, Fnatic, for advertising a new exciting opportunity for North America. Well, we shouldn't say that during European hours. We get people unfollow and unsub. Listen, Europe, zero franchising. Anyway.
Yeah, with Pobelter, it's like, especially coming after a finals MVP, and like looking like amazing, and like looking like he played his ear a lot in that series, like all like 3 out of the 4 games or something. But either way, like you know, you thought like this was a tournament that he should go out and look decent in, especially because the mid pool like isn't super dominant. Like Warzone sucks. Xiaohu did not look particularly great this tournament. Maple and Caps were really good, and BDD was really good. But like you got to be able to play against those really good mid laners, and it didn't feel like he could do it. And like they picked him some weird stuff. Like Pobelter just doesn't scream a Yasuo player to me. So when he got locked in his first competitive Yasuo, it was kind of like, oh boy, And who
Did
knows
you
what
see? Sorry, did you see Pobelter's solo queue win rates on his EU account? It was something like, because obviously he starts quite low. He had like a 70+ win rate on everything, and then I think on Yasuo he had like 40%. And then they lock it in. That might have changed since then, but this was a few days back. And
Yeah, or maybe
just
he got the
questions why
70%
you
on
pick-
the other ones, or what? I don't know. But
Yeah, either way, like it was just pretty funny because it's like he's Nazir, Victor, Rise, like he's always such like a stable mid lane player for the most part that like you put him on this like crazy assassin, you're like But then when he did end up back on those picks, he still didn't look that much better, and it felt like Malzahar was the only thing that they had success on, to the point that they first picked Malzahar in the game. Like that's the level that they were at.
Yeah.
So sketchy.
And then that makes me think: can you ever trust Pobelter to truly carry you internationally? Impact's always best on tanks. A double, if we know now, will perform to some level, but which
to
of
some
those other
level,
players, even
my boy did amazing.
But to be fair to Pandemonium's point, you don't know what meta you're gonna get, and like this was a good bot lane meta for the most part. Like a lot was very heavily decided around your bot lane, and all the best bot laners in the world were there. And like Doublelift definitely cemented himself as a carry player on an international stage. But like you're not guaranteed to get that meta. Like you can get the utility 80 carry meta where it's Jhin, Varus, Ashe, and they just are alt bots. And then like who's carrying this team?
Yeah.
What?
And then even if
go ahead.
Sorry. Even if it's a jungle carry meta, who's the one I haven't yet mentioned, I feel like Smithy is genuinely a really, really good jungler.
But he's not carrying.
He's much better at enabling his team.
Yeah, he's like a Pobelter in that sense, where you're not going to put him on any like playmakers.
Yeah. Perhaps slightly better than Pobelter, but yeah, a similar kind of player.
Well,
yeah, I think I'm not quite sure because like he has played Graves and Ezreal, like he did that Worlds, and like he was pretty good on them. But I agree, like if it's not ideal for Team Liquid for sure. Like this was their ideal meta completely, and they still wasn't like good enough for them to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very curious what because Twitch chat brought it up. Like I've always thought Peter was a decent Jhin player. Mark, was Jhin just like shit at this tournament, and that's what happened?
No,
I don't know.
I think Jhin was fine. Like there are games where I didn't like it, where there was a lot of tanks, and it was still like, but they were taking it early, so a lot of time you didn't know that you're going to end up in this heavy tank comp thing.
Yeah.
I agree. It probably wasn't the best pick in the meta. Like, I don't care. I think Peter's Jhin was something that, like, my understanding of Doublelift, having talked to a lot of people who work with him or were on his team and stuff like that, is he has, all things considered, a pretty limited effective champion pool where like he gets really good on like 3 to 4 champions, and that's mostly what he wants to play. And like Jhin was one of them this time, and like it's not beneficial to push him outside of his comfort zone. That's my understanding of like Doublelift, and like I think Jhin, like people point to the Jhin in the first 4 days, and I'm like, why are you concerned about Jhin? Like, look at what's happening on the team. So I personally didn't have a big problem with the Jhin. I thought there were times where it was fine and times where it was not.
Yeah, it just felt weird in that RNG game where it felt like both teams were like, all right, we're in on this Uzi versus Doublelift thing, and Uzi's on Cog and Peter's on Jhin, and I'm like, it felt like a weird setup.
Yeah, I know people are saying like Jhin is not a hyper carry. He's not Kog'Maw. Like, but at the same time, if Jhin is what works for him and they're gonna play with the Jhin pick, then like that's where they have their most practice. That's where they're most comfortable.
Yeah,
I think they can win with it. They had one with it. But yeah, I understand why people aren't happy to see the Jhin pick, but I don't think you can look back at this tournament and be like, man, there was a major problem at this tournament, and that was the Jhin pick.
Yeah,
really?
well,
that's what your takeaway is,
but
not the mid laner.
Or the support. That's the problem is that
exactly.
It's all these little things, right? So you could make that argument on everything. Like it wasn't like Pobelter was not the major reason Team Liquid lost. I don't know if Ole was the major reason they lost. Like it was just sort of that team falling apart in a lot of different ways, and I just don't.
Yeah, but like every team at that event lost games and like looked bad for stretches. RNG didn't look that great at some points. Kings don't look vulnerable at points. Like everyone has problems, and like pick ban things come up. And like when I'm trying to identify why one team is losing more than another team, I'm not gonna look at like this like tiny minor draft problem. Like, I agree.
Sure,
like,
sure, sure,
if you want
sure.
me to break down a specific game, like yes, Jim was okay here. No,
Yeah.
Jim was not okay there. But like you can do that with every team. And like if I'm walking away from this international tournament, like what are my takeaways? The Jin pick is not a takeaway.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
I was just asking.
Yeah.
Pandemonium. Thank you so much for your call.
Yes. Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I just want to shout out Omen by HP for just being great people.
Thank you so much for shouting. I love it when you guys do that. Thank you so much.
Yep.
I'm hearing that there's an echo. So,
sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I think I need to fix it. Thank you, though.
Should I
Okay.
get them next or give you a chance to
Give me a second.
All right.
Can you say something?
Hello, this is Mark, and I am talking about League of Legends.
Okay. I think we should be good now. I think we should be good. Oh wait, no, that wouldn't be it. It'd be
when we talk at the same time. So we're both talking right now, and you're not talking, so I'm just talking. And I feel real lonely. And I wish you were here with me, Travis.
Okay.
In my villa by Omen by
Well,
HB.
I do want to shout out a couple people. By the way, before I shout out these folks, I just want to say a lot of great support from all you guys in supporting my trip over here. I think we're, Broden. I think we're at like, I think we're on track to get about 5K for this trip, which is about where I was hoping, about what I was expecting. So thank you for that. You guys have been fantastic. My Patreon is almost at 2K, which I'm hoping we can maybe hit that. So thank you so much to everybody who's helping out. A couple people. Let's see. Crossbow Burrito, Fragbite Light, Be Smart, Panda Epic, Boba Cola sent 100 bits, Ribbon Chew subbed, Sand Pitowski donated $3 and said greetings from Poland. Proud of you. Keep it up. EU greater than NA. J4 Yol resubbed. Thanks for the content, man. Abosioni, Random Throwaway 000, Sort of Boss Like, donated $5. Black Dove War, Weir Squatch, and Sculpted Soldier resubbed for 5 months. There's some more, but I'll get to them after the next call as Mark goes in to pull the next person. Very excited about
that. That's what I was doing.
Who we're going to talk to next. It's going to be great. All right, well, he's gone. The Ghost Rider resubbed. Big Bang 02. Big Diesel 2mm. Or Big Diesel 2M. Thradash sent 500 bits. Thank you, everyone, for the support. We're all caught up now. I'm trying to raise funds for MSI because I don't have a sponsor. So if you were unaware of that, you can hit up the support link, the Patreon link. Just Okay is on the show right now. Just Okay, where are you calling from?
Southern California.
Oh, you're a little quiet. I'm going to turn you up a bit.
Okay.
What's that again?
Yeah, from Southern California.
From Southern California. Whereabouts in Southern California?
Like an hour east of LA, like Chino Hills area.
Like Rancho Cucamonga area?
Yeah.
Okay. I know it well, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
What do you, it's, you know what, it's just okay, is what I would say. Just okay, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so I was calling to talk about how I think that NA as a whole is fine mechanically and actually in also their team play. And I think that what they lack is like a certain clutch factor in especially international tournaments.
We have a team named Clutch.
Yeah. Like I think over certain international tournaments, you can see some teams have this or like have found this kind of clutch factor, but overall, a lot of teams are just lacking in like delivering when it most matters.
Okay, that's a fair thing, but let me ask you, what is a clutch factor? Can you define a clutch factor? Because like I think that's one of those terms that sounds great because you're like, oh man, these teams just clutch it out, but ultimately it's like a good catch-all phrase for a bunch of other things, right? Like, oh, they just have good players that can make plays when they need to, or oh, this team is consistent or whatever. Like, I maybe you can help me understand what you mean by clutch factor.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between I think like having good players and like being and players that are able to show up when they might feel uncomfortable or like the competition's a lot better or things like that, right? Even if you look at other kind of teams, I'm thinking like back in Worlds when I forget the name of the ADC that they're hyping up from China. It was like
Name.
Name, yeah. Who was there like, oh, this is the best ADC that's ever played in like years, and they just didn't show up, right? Like this happens in a bunch of different things. But I think if you look at like C9, back when High played in Worlds, and it was a do or die scenario when they were also just got boosted out of a tiebreaker or into a tiebreaker, like the same way that Fnatic did this past MSI, right? When they showed up to the tiebreaker, they're just like, okay, well, now it's time to win, and they just beat what was it, Najin White or whatever. So there's this. What I'm saying is like when it matters that you play to the skill level that you have shown that you can play to, and I think that when you think of like Team Liquid, they've I think in NA have shown that they're actually really good, and this is something that I disagreed with the last caller where they said he didn't have any carry players. I think that they have a lot of carry players. Just that the carry players, when it matters most, don't play to the level that they have shown that they can play to. I don't expect them to play much beyond that level, but like the clutch factor is at least playing to the level that you have played to. If they played to that level and then just lost, then that's another thing. But I think they played far below that level, or basically spending the entire tournament trying to scale up to that level before they actually. And then by the time that they got there, the tournament's already over.
I think they basically had it fixed by day 3. I think the Team Liquid that you saw from day 3 onwards was like just the Team Liquid of who they were. But I do agree for like the first portion, and I would say, to some extent, I would say North America seems to have a mental block again at like in international tournaments because like we always do poorly. Everyone thinks like we suck, and then it's like this is the year the fans' hopes get hyped up again, and then they go out there and they struggle. So I would buy the argument that like one of North America's whole like problems is their mental game, because like the North America week 2 thing always seems to happen. Is that mentality or is that people adapting? TSM last year, I think it was pretty obvious that they had like huge confidence issues, and then Doublelift had that Players Tribune article where they talked a lot about that, or where he talked about it, and how just high tense, how like uncomfortable everyone clearly was with that event. So I would somewhat buy the idea that North America needs to work on / fix its like mental game.
Yeah, I just feel like this is obviously like I don't know what goes on in the players and what goes on behind the scenes, but I feel like every region has to deal with coming in to international tournaments, meeting all these people, and all these players who are at their best of their regions, fighting for every game and every inch. But I feel like North America consistently comes up less, and I don't really know why that is.
Well, I also just fundamentally think we are not as good as some of these other regions. Like, I don't want people to get the wrong idea and think I'm saying, like, no, we're just there with them. It's just mental game, yada, yada, yada. I think there are some areas and some, like, things that are indicative of the fact that we are not as good.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, if you take our 1 to 3 versus other regions 1 to 3, I think pretty often we are weaker. But that doesn't mean that, like, we can just never get out of groups and like we'll never be good. Like, I think we clearly showed that we are close. But like, yeah, I think we do seem to having read about the environment that Doublelift felt about TSM at 2017 Worlds, having watched what just happened at this one, it's like, that is clearly not a team that is like mentally ready to go and like psyched up to play.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of different things here. One is I don't understand why there's like a mental component that is still plaguing these players, if there is one, because either they've just lost so many times at international events that they can't seem to get past that. Because it's not like these are rookies, right? Like, how many times have these players been at international events, or at least, and if you brought it out to like just two like big stages, and here they were playing in the EULCS studio, so which we talked about earlier. So it's hard to understand how. I don't know, like the nerve thing is just weird to me because I just don't understand why.
But that's like how competition, like the best players in the world at multiple sports always still like get nervous. Like there's no level where nerves don't affect. Like,
but
the
don't
Super
you figure
Bowl,
out how to
like,
deal with them eventually?
well, you should if you're good, but that's what I'm saying is some people don't. Like there are players who like, the Super Bowl is a great example where like some people are just like they get way too in their own head about it and they freak out. It's such a big event. Same with like NBA finals, LCS finals. Like it happens despite the fact that like you might have played a ton. And that's why in my thing that you didn't fucking watch, I talked about Bill Russell, 11-time NBA champion, won the most championships of any player ever, tied with like this one other like soccer player, I think. He would vomit before games. He would always vomit before games. And like later on in his career, he got it a little bit more under control, but he would still vomit before important games. And his team actually liked when he threw up because they knew that meant he was like psyched and ready to go. And that's a guy who dealt with stress the way that it worked for him. And like you would not think vomiting before matches and games and then going out and playing basketball is a good way to like be prepared to play, but that's what worked for him. And so I don't care if you're a 6-time LCS champion and you go out to the international stage and you vomit before you play. If that's what works for you, great. I just don't think a lot of the NA players have seem to deal with stress that well, based off what I read about from their team environments when they talk about it later, or like when a player benches himself after one day of competition. Like that doesn't scream teams that are mentally prepared for me.
I mean, yeah, I don't expect anybody to not be nervous. Obviously, like there's a lot of pressure and that kind of thing. But I feel like they just, and I don't know if this is like a sports psychology issue or how this would be diagnosed, but I feel like they don't know how to channel this, like this nervousness into like a good thing, or like at least keep it under control or that kind of thing. I mean, Travis talked about it earlier, like it gets in their head. I honestly do think that that's a huge part of what happens internationally. I feel like people like to meme about it, but I feel like when, they see all these, week 2 NA, 0-10, all these memes and kind of things, even when the first week goes by and they're up 2-1 in the group stages, and then they lose the first game in the week 2, I feel like they're like, oh no, is it happening again? And they might like laugh at it, but I think it's like a legitimate thing where it might actually be in their heads thinking, oh shit, it might happen again. And they don't really know how to deal with it because they don't really want to like face the reality that, if will happen again, if you don't, if these changes aren't made. And so then it just does happen again. And like every loss that happens just builds upon the last loss. And then it just becomes a snowball and then it's over at that point.
I just think that a lot of it goes back to, like, if you just look at Double Lift and Ole's communication, at the start of the split,
Yeah.
I went to dinner with them.
Oh my God. People complain about my story. Here comes Travis's Peter didn't buy me fries story.
Ole was really disappointed in Peter because he didn't buy him fries at Shake Shack. And it was a prophecy that I had, that I knew that there'd be communication issues. Communication issues so big, I couldn't have even predicted that Ole would sub himself out at an international event.
I tried to move Travis to another channel in Discord, but then I realized I wouldn't mute him for the stream because the stream's on his end.
Exactly. You would have saved yourself, but not anyone else, You're just like,
So
it's like instead of jumping on the grenade, you just throw the grenade into the audience,
Just kick it down the line.
Exactly. What a hero. Anyway, we've talked about this, I think, enough. Maybe there is some sort of nerve component. Maybe there's a clutch factor. I don't know. Just okay.
Yeah.
But I do hope we figure it out. And I don't think it's all the same. I do know there's one boy that performed at this event. One American hero.
Crazy.
And it was the guy
nuts.
who put out
It was
such amazing
Smithy.
interviews. Did you see that I got a second double lifted reckless interview? There's one
Wait,
American
Smithy
you
was
guys
in
can always
there?
count on at these things to perform well, and that's me.
Smithy was there?
I said another. What?
Huh?
Thank you, Just Okay, for your call.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, have a good one.
Travis, why do you think North America sucks?
Because I never tried to make it onto one of these teams.
That is a great cop-out answer.
No, I mean, did you switch channels yet? No.
No.
We have a smaller player base. We have a smaller player base, and I think there starts to become a mental component of it's like the little brother complex, right? Like we're never going to be as good as Korea, so you never. I don't know. I think that's part of it.
I think small player base. I think solo queue here is worse.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
as much as people meme about it, like it is a component where it's like we're more spread out. We play on higher ping. People don't take it as seriously at high elo because streaming. Plus the fact that like pro players are like I think it's a different culture out here where it's very very like it tries to be so organic and all encompassing of your life where it's like yeah we're gonna work out and have all this great stuff and it's like the Koreans probably work harder than us, as well as having better player base with higher ping and a better infrastructure with people who like will listen to their coaches more and it's less ego driven. Those still probably some. Like I think it's a whole bunch of things combined together. But
yeah. And
anyways,
we keep throwing money at the problem, but it's not working for some reason. Works really well on the rest of the things that America does, but
I think we just need more money is the problem.
Dude donated $11.80. Says you managed to make interviews both entertaining and insightful. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Mark. You can grab the next caller now. Oh
yeah, I already did, dude. I don't need you to tell me to do things.
We've got Aubrey on the show right now. Aubrey, where are you calling from?
Hey, Travis. I'm calling from Toronto, Canada.
Look, it's like the third Canadian and the second Torontoan.
Wow. We're pretty popular. Yeah, we love your stream.
Oh, thank you. I wish I liked Toronto. What do you want to talk about on the show today?
I want to talk about, with Ole having that mental breakdown, at MSI, what do you guys think about having in-game timeouts in League? And I think there's two ways you can have it, right? You can have in-game timeouts with just players, and then you can have in-game timeouts where the coaches would come out, but then the coaches would only need to have their team's perspective when they're in the back rooms or something. But I just wanted to talk about the whole concept of having in-game timeouts in League.
This sounds crazy to me, but I'm going to let Mark go for it because he's like the coach guy.
Well, I think it depends what you're looking to get out of them. I think the idea of a in-game timeout helping to calm a player down depends on the degree of which the player is freaking out. If you're having a panic attack, it's not going to help that much. It might help a little bit, but it probably won't help a ton.
Aside from like the emotional and aspect, do you see any like strategic value to having any in-game timeouts or anything like that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of strategic value. I just don't know exactly how to implement. Like if a team's losing by a little bit and they like pick two bad fights, coach calls a timeout, goes on stage like you guys are picking bad engages, you're doing this wrong, settle down, do this, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be cool as someone who likes to see like coaches being more involved in the game, but I also think a big part of what makes League cool is it does feel kind of like these five guys versus these five guys, and then like trying to find a way to make the timeouts work is so difficult because does the coach like call it and like run on stage, like because the coach is usually watching from a different room where he can listen in on the comms. Does that mean that you need to hook a microphone up then and then he can talk to them? Just like the logistics of how this would actually work is so difficult, on top of like, can you ever find a place in the game where it's appropriate to call for a timeout? Who requests the timeout? Is a ref there deciding if the timeout's good to go based off like, what people say as dead ball state and things like that? Like you get so many problems that it just probably would never happen. And you're only doing it to like there's not even a problem you're trying to fix with this. Like, that's the thing. It's like when you propose the solution to something, there needs to be a problem, and then you weigh how important the problem is that you're fixing against how difficult the solution is to implement. And it's a really difficult solution for a borderline non-existent problem. So I don't think you'll ever see timeouts like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's unfortunate that we don't live in a world where there are more best of threes and best of fives. Because
Travis, real quick question. Am I muted on Skype? I am muted on Skype. Why are people hearing me echo?
I think it's because I'm not wearing headphones, and it's the same laptop as the mic on it that's spitting out the speakers. I don't have a good fix for it.
Whatever. Sorry.
I just don't know why it comes and goes. Like sometimes people say they hear it, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
I turn the volume down to a point where I can barely hear it, and then people still hear the echo. So I don't know. I'll turn it down again. I think it's too bad that we don't live in a world where there are more best of threes and best of fives, because that's when you have a good solution, because you can just do this. You can have those conversations in between the games. So like if a player is like having some sort of mental issue, like you've got at least like 10 minutes to like talk them through it, figure stuff out, etc. before the next game starts. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, to that extent, there already are timeouts in a series.
Yeah.
I see some people saying like timeouts would make players just mechanical players. But like if you're doing one timeout a game, let's say per team, like, and they can only last a minute, it's not like the coach is going to go in there and make them like suddenly play correctly if they were playing incorrectly. So I don't think that's the problem. I think it's just like, how do you not interrupt 10 people in a game all doing their own thing? Because like the dead ball state in sports works because like the ball is out of bounds, the ball has stopped moving. There's a single object of focus. In League of Legends, there is no like object of focus. It is everyone doing their own thing at all times. So there's never a point where like you're not interrupting somebody unless everyone's back in base, or you decide that in some situations it's fine to interrupt somebody.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting thought. Do you have anything else, that you'd add, Aubrey?
No, not that you guys brought up some really good points that I can't. The only comparison that I can think of would be like CS:GO, but even when they do have timeouts, they do have a proper, dead ball state, and even in their timeouts, only the coaches are able to speak, and none of the players are able to speak or interact with each other anyway. So it is very obscure in its own way. The only other, I guess, alternative I can think of is having the coach at all times, but that was brought up a long time ago on one of your earlier shows, Travis, but that would make the game really, really boring.
Yeah.
But aside from that, no, nothing.
Thank you, Aubrey, so much for the call.
Thank you.
There shouldn't be any echo because I can't hear whoever's I can barely hear people talking to me. I would shout out any subs or bits or anything like that, but there are no new ones. So we'll sit here in silence.
No, we won't. We have
J4Yol is here. Is that how you say it, J4Yol?
Not really. It's J-O actually.
Hey, sorry. Well, hang on. I'm going to turn my speakers up and create an echo. What'd you say?
It's J-O actually. I was young and stupid, and the streamer I like used the 4 as an A. So
okay.
Sorry.
J-O, what do you want to talk about on the show today? Oh wait, where are you calling from? Sorry.
I'm calling from Vienna, Austria.
Vienna, Austria. Nice. Have you been on the show before?
No, I'm watching your show mostly as VODs because, the time is hard for EU. But I've watched every single Hotline League.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that we had a show where you could call in. What do you want to talk about?
Just to preface, I'm more of an NA fan than an EU fan. Like
hey, we
NA
love
LCS.
people like you on this show.
Yeah, I know. So the one thing I'm worried about is that with, and I put failures in my hot take in exclamation marks because I don't actually think that neither Fnatic nor Team Liquid should regard what they were doing this MSI as a failure totally. Just they probably won't win. And they won't win for a long time, as well as in Worlds, like win the tournament. And I'm worried that these continued failures will make people who care, who are not as passionate about the game as like the people investing in franchising, ask themselves, why is a lot of my money flowing towards events where we're never going to generate a lot of success? And the whole narrative that it's all about Worlds. Winning Worlds is the big thing everyone strives for, devalues the regional titles a little bit. So these people are going to ask themselves, why are we investing so much into something that we'll never achieve? And I'm a little worried that people will start, like organizations will start pulling out of League esports again because of that.
Well, what I would say to that is I don't know if it matters as long as everyone's still making money. So I think these organizations want to win. I think the local or regional based wins can give them something to tout as like, oh, we're the best team in Europe or whatever. And even if they don't win Worlds, if they make good money from their team making it to Worlds and performing there, even if they don't make it past, quarters or whatever, I think then they're okay staying invested, right? Like the reason a business exists in esports is not to win, it's to make money. Winning helps you make money, but if you can make money while not winning, you can still justify your business.
So are there? Because of course that's nothing like the average viewer knows. But let's say it's Worlds and there's 3 teams from NA going there. Okay, now let's say all those 3 teams, like they have to go to Korea and they have to live there and they have to have staff over there and all. I mean, just going to Worlds costs a lot of money initially.
Yes.
So if they all drop out in groups, which is not unprecedented, are they making money? Is there a net gain?
Who would you say are the 3 most popular teams in North America?
3 most popular?
Yeah.
TSM, C9, and probably 100 Thieves now.
What about before this year?
Before this year, probably instead of 100 Thieves, COG.
Yeah. So what are the 3 teams that have been to Worlds most in its existence?
Yeah, well, these teams.
Yeah. So, yes, they're not like, whoa, we've made all this money from Worlds, from skins or whatever. But I like going to Worlds increases I think is a very big marketing tool for your team. And the fact, like, whenever Cloud9, makes it through the gauntlet, qualifies in, and then outperforms the rest of the NA teams, that's really good for Cloud9, and that's the kind of stuff that builds fandom. The documentaries and content and everything that's produced at Worlds is part of that. The fact that at MSI, Team Liquid was able to sell out of a America jersey is part of that. So yes, I do think, and I think you are more likely to get sponsorships if you are a team that makes it to Worlds. So I do think that yes, they are, like, Worlds does generate revenue, just not in a very obvious way. And ideally in the future, Riot is able to do a rev share out to all these different leagues. And then, the teams that are maybe participating in Worlds get a good cut of that. So I think that's down the road, but I think it's an eventuality. And Worlds should make a shit ton of money comparatively to other things, and because the viewing hours are so much and the prestige of it is so much, it is in some sense the Super Bowl of League of Legends. So
yeah, I think prize pool from League of Legends, you don't even hear people talk about that much anymore. I mean, it's sort of come back since they started doing like the payout structure with people being able to buy award skins and stuff like that. But I think for these investors, they're a lot less concerned about that kind of money and more about like the guaranteed marketability and being able to sell sponsorships and this kind of stuff is probably what concerns them a lot more. So I don't think like losing internationally matters to them. Like it's not like we've won internationally and now it's a suddenly new problem. Like I think anyone who's done their due diligence when they invested in the North American scene should have known that North America doesn't win worlds. They haven't been close. So
Yeah.
I don't think it should be a surprise to any investor that we are continuing to not win worlds. That said, I do think the idea of North America being a second-rate region and sucking is a problem for the investors because of fan understanding and perception of it. But that's not like the investors themselves getting cold feet. That's like worrying about your fan base caring about you because you just like, who cares if you win North America anymore? If you just go if winning North America just means the best team to lose in groups, then yeah, people probably won't care.
Yeah, that's a little bit of what I mean. I mean, all your points you made are very fair and good. And that's a little bit what I see is a lot of people, at least if you believe what people write on Reddit and then in other places, is that they think like that. That some fans at least think like that. I mean, I certainly still enjoy watching the NALCS a lot. And I also want to say that because a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, there was someone on the show actually bringing up a similar point and saying we should cut out all, we shouldn't do worlds every year, for example, and stuff like that. I don't think that because, watching this MSI, and while I agree the venue is not the greatest it was in, this was so much fun to watch because it was a hyped tournament, and it's going to be hyped for the knockout stage, I think. And watching worlds is one of the coolest experience every year usually. So I don't have the solution in just don't do international events anymore because I don't think that would be a good idea. But I do think that there needs to be a way for the fan to advertise to the average fan that winning NALCS in itself is great and is something worth cheering for and getting excited about.
I think that is the case,
you
though.
probably won't win worlds off of it.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know if they need to say, "Hey guys, this is a big deal. We know we won't win worlds," but I do think winning an ALCS is usually lifted up as a pretty big deal. I mean, again, everybody lost their minds when CLG won Madison Square Garden. Even Team Liquid winning at Miami this past year or this past spring, I think was really exciting. Hopefully, there's a packed audience for Oakland.
I agree. I think MSI 2015 is like esports goes by so fast. Like 2015 to me still feels like a different era of League esports, even though it was only 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. That is so far removed, I think, from like the current environment of League of Legends. It's like things go so quickly, and I do think, to Jael's point, like if North America doesn't get out of groups again, let's say at Worlds, or like maybe C9 got out last year, but like C9 gets out, we lose in quarters. Like if we don't have like a big victory soon or something like that, like do you think, Travis, that like people will start getting frustrated even more than they have been for a while?
I mean, isn't this a thing that sports fans do all the time? Where like, what was it, the Red Sox that went like 50 years without winning, but then still had a very passionate fan base?
That has happened, but if you have, so there's some fair weather teams and some not so fair weather teams. Boston's Red Sox were not that fair. They still were actually pretty fair weather, but they weren't super fair weather. But like that could happen with North America. You might have fans who are just like, you know what? I'm done watching us suck balls at international competition. And then when we win, hopefully they all come back. But like,
yeah,
who knows
the thing
when
is,
that happens?
I think we already have such a good storyline system and like a good hook for. I mean, those fans might say that, and then when they hear that Doublelift is joining Echo Fox next year, they're like, "Whoa! Doublelift is going to be playing with Dardoch and Hooney? Well, I gotta tune in and watch this." Like it's
inside information from you.
Yeah, it's inside information. So, I mean that's the thing is that people like to get salty at Worlds, and then they forget it whenever something exciting is happening. So I'm not too worried about it. I think it's bad and it bleeds us out. I think certainly we'd have better retention and maybe better growth in a world where we were just killing it on the international stage. But I don't think that the death nail of League of Legends esports in North America will be TSM failing to make it out of groups for the 500th time.
That I do agree with.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, JL, for calling in. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Have a good show.
And thank you for being a sub.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure.
All right, I got him out of there. This is awkward.
Sure.
North American play rates will be the death
Yeah.
of esports, not the other way
around. All right. We got one more caller coming in. We got Stunny Day subbed, Rage subbed, Potatoes Chips 1910 subbed. Rage donated $10. If a professional player cannot keep his mental on an international stage, should that player be replaced or continue to be worked on? Watch Me, Marduk subbed, Hype Love Shack subbed, and Lador sent $30. Says, hey, never had a chance to say thank you for all the information. Karen, all sorry if I bothered you in any way. Thank you, Lador. Lador is a person who asked me for advice on some interviews.
Travis, we have
Khan is here right now. Welcome back, Khan, to the show. If you want to remind everyone where you're calling from.
Idaho.
Oh, you're super quiet. Hang on.
Oh, I told him he's.
I'm put up as high as I can be on Discord.
I pitch you as high as you can. Go ahead.
You just got better for a second there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Khan.
Can you hear me better now?
You kind of go in and out. Can you speak loud?
I'll try speaking loud.
Okay. That's working.
So I am from Idaho, and my topic was how MSI has been. I felt like this tournament has felt especially toxic, and has been like for both teams, players, and like the fan community. And for me, he said there's a caller that says we need to, there's a caller that said that we need to stop doing international tournaments. That's me. I'm that guy. And I think this MSI is a great example of why it would benefit League if we stopped having them so often and let these regions focus on building themselves all together.
When you say often, you count twice a year as often?
I think twice a year is way too much.
How often would you have it?
Maybe have one once every 2 years.
Okay. Twitch chat's very upset with you, but why? Maybe you can elaborate a little bit.
Well, first of all, I think that because we have this twice a year MSI Worlds type model, it forces these regions to build their whole entire system for seasons and how they build their leagues. They're forced to build it around these two tournaments, which then kind of creates this two double split narrative, which I think actually hurts. I think it hurts the experience because it feels like you're rushing what could just be like one whole season into like two separate parts. And then there's the point, like the last caller was saying, is when you consistently do have teams, of all regions not performing up to the level they never believed they should, it does affect a little bit. Like Travis, you made a great point that people get excited, for new changes and stuff. But consistently, the spring split has always been more viewed than the summer split, despite it feeling like that should be the more important split. Everybody says, summer's more important, summer's more important. But yet viewership has always dropped from spring to summer. And I think it's just like kind of a lot of that is a reminder that, the narrative just becomes Worlds. And because it's a narrative of Worlds, there are fans out there that are just like, I don't, we're not going to perform well. It doesn't matter as much. I've seen all the changes teams have made.
So you think that getting rid of the things that make people excited and making them less often would help viewership across the, because you're saying spring, it doesn't seem to matter because people watch more spring than they do summer.
I'm saying that people care about the teams and the players. They don't care about the international competition as much as we think. In fact, what ends up happening is if the people who do care get upset when things don't happen that way. Like if Worlds was like, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I just find it weird that you think like the reason people watch spring more than summer, and you're talking about multi-year plans, is because between Worlds and spring is when all of the major roster changes happen, and that is when you get like the most viewership because everything is different. That's when Double F joins TSM and like all that crazy shit happens. That's why people watch spring more, and then it settles, and then people slowly like tune out over the course of the year. And so if you're telling me that like you think teams aren't able to plan long term, like, but that is showing that the long term playing team seems to make people tune out. If you're going to talk about teams sticking together for 2 or 3 years, right?
Well, I don't think teams need to stick together for 2 or 3 years. I'm just saying that international competition doesn't drive viewership.
International viewership drives it, or international competition drives a ton of viewership at the events themselves. MSI this year was standing.
LPL finals had more viewership than Worlds. If you watch like the Twitch numbers, like there was, I know it's bad time for NA, but the amount of people watching like the EU, Fnatic versus Team Liquid Timebreaker was less than either EU or NA finals. And hypothetically, that tiebreaker should be more important than the EU or NA finals.
I would argue that putting it on a Tuesday afternoon is probably, while NA is sleeping, is probably not.
Tuesday at 8 a.m.
Yeah. So I would say that's why when I'm not sure if you can use that as an argument for it. Let's set all of this aside. Con, do you think that you could tell the League of Legends community, like, hey, we're going to only do one international event every 2 years at this point, and that it would be accepted?
I think if you express that you're doing this to commit to making your own region better to watch, and you're investing in your region and improving that, I think they'd be okay with it. If you're helping build, say, fan bases for these new teams in the like the new franchise teams for NAEU, like if you put more effort.
Have you seen Reddit today with the jungle changes?
Yeah, I've seen Reddit.
Do you really think that they'd be okay with it? Sorry, I'm not trying to parth you right now. This is a legit question.
Like, no. They'd probably be pissed at first, but Reddit was also pissed that they took best of threes away, and best of ones was a better viewing experience.
Yeah, I just don't know if you could ever get people on board with this idea, especially when it would be the only esport where this type of thing happens.
I mean, that's what I was gonna say is forgetting like any of the specific numbers and things like.
But also esport, this is the only esport that technically, like this is the only esport that's really built regional leagues and has survived decently long based on that too. You don't see.
I think it's also more to do with. I mean, I think no matter what Riot did with League of Legends, if they were as dedicated to the LCS, like they could have done the major system or the international or any of those things, and League of Legends esports would have been fine because it was basically WoW levels of popularity, and they actually supported the fucking game correctly for their esports, unlike Blizzard, where they just like kind of killed the competitive scene for that. So like, I think no matter what Riot did, it would have grown to become the biggest esport. I think the LCS was a great choice. I think all that was really well done. But like, international competition is what we all live for. Like, if you ask most viewers like what we're excited about, it's international competition. I think
until we get there and then we get mad at it.
Well, yeah, but we're mad because we care. That's a sign that we care. I'm not like, oh man, take away this so I never have to feel disappointed again. Like, I want people to win, and then we don't win, and I'm sad. But I'm not like, I would have rather have never played the game.
Well, I'm not saying that's not a real thing. I'm just saying systematically it'd be better as a business if we slowed it down and spread it out more.
I don't think killing your business is a good business decision.
I mean, you're not killing it. You're just maybe not having it happen as often. Less is more things.
Well, I think that's the difference is that Mark and I are of the opinion that doing something like this would have such a crippling effect on the scene that...
Why, though?
Because I don't think that I think the fans would, like we were talking earlier about how many times can North America lose going to Worlds before like fans start to walk away. I think that's probably a while. I think if you just tell fans like see you in 2 years, then they'll say like, all right, cool, see you in 2 years.
Yeah, that's what happens with the international. No one watches anything like with Dota. Like everyone watches it. It's fucking huge. It's amazing. But then after that, there's like a handful of tournaments that get like, if even a handful, that get like 100,000 viewers. Like it's just.
But that's their league system that way, though.
No, they didn't. Until recently, they didn't have that, right?
Well, I mean, I do think the Dota system is different than what the league system would be. The problem is like even in a world where you're right and it should have been structured this way from the beginning, I think somebody in Twitch chat said like the cat's out of the bag a couple minutes ago, and I think that's true. Like I don't think that you can once you've given them this, it's really hard to take it away. And that's.
But I mean, like. The thing is, when you look at like, you don't even have to use Dota then. Look at the Olympics. Who the fuck cares about skiing?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was kind of thinking about.
Who the fuck cares about skiing except when it's international competition? Who the fuck cares about curling? And suddenly millions of people give a fuck about curling. Like, you are not going to care about your region because you're not building a storyline up to this international competition where you're following the best team. You're just watching these guys play, knowing that, like, well, I'm watching second-rate stuff. It becomes like, you know, like I don't watch Turkish basketball. I watch the NBA. Like that's what's going to happen.
Turkish basketball in Turkey is a big deal. People in Turkey watch Turkish basketball.
Yeah, but it's not as successful as the NBA.
Well, no, because because North America has the money, and they have the sponsorships, and they have the
good players. Yeah.
But but imagine if every year you had Turkey players having to play against NBA players to say that's their world title. Do you think Turkey would be better? Do you think that Turkish basketball system would still be like having their own league and being successful?
No, but in a world where you had the Turkish basketball team play against seven other regions, one of which is North America, and their team places second to North America, I think that would potentially be an event that a lot of Turkish fans would be excited about. And if you gave them that every 6 months, and then you told them, never mind, it's going to be every 2 years, I could see them being really frustrated. Is a thing. So,
I mean,
especially
there's a reason why no other professional sports scenes in the whole entire world doesn't do this.
Yeah, I think it's because it was not a global. Like the world is very different now. Like I think if a sport popped up today, like a physical sport, you'd probably see it be very international. And by the way, like,
well, Travis, you also just said one of the most important things there: physical sport.
Yeah.
Like this isn't a physical sport. It's fine to do interregional play. Like we're esports.
What do you mean? They're going to the freaking places and playing in person. That's the argument's the same exact thing. A person can play baseball in Europe just as easily as a person can play baseball in America.
Yeah, but they have to do things like that. You have to to grow a scene is so hard in a sport, right? Like how do you grow a sport really? Whereas
by promoting your local areas and building from your local region.
Yeah, but like let's say a new sport comes out, how do you make that sport popular?
By building things locally one by one and then branching out before you hit.
Nah, sports are more cultural than you think compared to esports. And that's I think something that's very important about esports is that anyone can play them, anyone can do them, and then you can go out and usually build your way up to the top. It doesn't require like this big infrastructure that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, and one of the other things is like part of the reason why I think you don't see bigger international events is because other than soccer, there are very few instances of sports that are wildly popular across all these different regions and all these different countries. And in the areas where they didn't all pop up at the same time, whereas something like League of Legends grew to be like an international phenomena at a pretty similar rate in a lot of these top countries at the same time, which is why you were able to see a world where like everybody was able to play against each other. So I'm getting yelled at by Frostgrin for there being an echo. So we probably just need to wrap stuff up. But thank you so much, Con, for calling in. And I appreciate your willingness to share a more controversial opinion, even in a world where Twitch chat was going to scream at you about it.
I'm just always the person. I think we need to be getting more jobs and more things, and you build that by regional play and not international.
Sure, gotcha. Well, thank you for
I also
coming on.
wish you also a happy birthday, Travis.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, 2 days out, but thank you.
What do you think Vietnam thinks?
Like, what do you mean? Like, should Vietnam be going to these international events?
No, I mean, like, Vietnam as a region that just started out, went to MSI, had a good showing, went to Worlds, also had a decent showing, comes here now, different team, different players, has another good showing. I don't know. What do you think they think about international play? Do you think that they would have preferred 2 years apart? You think China prefers 2 years apart for another chance to, like, get a crack at?
No, I mean, quite frankly, like, it's probably fun for them to see their players play against Faker or against Doublelift or against whoever. You know, like, from my understanding, a lot of these emerging regions or these regions that are coming up have been aware of these other, like, players in other regions for a while, and it's very fun for them to see their players have a chance to go up against them. So,
yeah, I think the point about it all being international, like, if you look at it from an NA perspective, I agree. Like, maybe you can make the argument, but it is an international scene, and Riot wants to promote every region.
Yeah.
And I don't think isolating Vietnam and them never getting, like, no one would have ever respected Vietnam until they finally played that one tournament every 2 years. And then people get to say, flash in the pan, they're Albus Nox Luna. It's a bunch of bullshit. People underperformed around them. TSM choked, whatever it is. But now Vietnam's gone out there 3 things in a row and done well.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it is important.
All right. Well, that is the show. I'm going to hang out and stream for a little bit afterwards. Per Nasty subbed. VWatts V donated $15.63. Love all the content you're making over on your YouTube channel. Keep it up, man. Thank you. Thank you very much, VWatts. I am going to hang out and stream, so no one leave. All right? Stay right where you are. Mark,
guys, I'm going to go, so I understand if you leave.
Mark, what do you want to say here at the end? What do you got going on?
Nothing. I only do hotline leagues. I did a GLT. I did a streamer showdown. I was a little busy this week. It's my anniversary coming up, so my girlfriend and I are going to go camping. That's about it. What about you? What about you, big dog Travis?
By the way, Frostgren, yeah, you missed the show. I'm sorry. We wanted to have a guest on, but the folks that I asked several of the personalities, and they said they were busy or tired or they need to get ready, so I gave up. I could have asked you, but I think you just got back, probably from dinner or rehearsal or whatever you were doing. Anyway, for me, I am in Paris. I'm here for another 3 days. Saturday is my birthday. Broden is leaving on my birthday, the morning of my birthday. He's ditching me. It's very sad. So all I have is you people.
We need to get Frostkern on as an actual guest. She called in once, right?
Yeah, she called in.
This would have been a pretty good time to do that, Travis.
Yeah. Well, again, I tried to get personalities onto this show. Europe's always like, hey, I want to see European people on. So I asked a bunch of European people.
And then what we talk about?
Fuck myself. No.
And did we talk about Europe at all? I hardly saw any topics in the Discord that were like Fnatic. I saw one guy who said he thought Fnatic would beat RNG, and then
I'm actually saying I'm very close to the Riot Hotel. Frost says she'll walk up to the room. I'm in the hotel that is very close to your hotel, Frost.
I know exactly where you are all at now.
I don't know.
Based off.
Do the post show with Frostgren. I might go over. I want to hang out on this stream for a little bit, and then I might go over to the hotel bar over there and see if anybody's hanging out.
Can I leave?
What?
Can I leave? Can you say the goodbye thing and then end the?
Thanks everyone for watching. This has been Hotline League episode 27.